interesting from my perspective is that what groundsmen do you follow in Europe and more importantly in the UK, and where do you get the look for innovation? It's just interesting from my point of view.
So in terms of the grounds that I sort of follow, I follow every single ground. I really watch sport for the sport. I'm looking at the surfaces that they play on. I'm looking at cricket pitches. I'm looking at the condition of football fields, rugby league fields, whether it be from, we get a lot of sport out of Australia, and we do get a lot of sport out of Europe. I don't know many of the individual names from the European sort of codes that we get to see, but I do have interaction with a lot of the Australian ones. We have had regular meetings previously with Cricket World Cup from all of the stadium curators or turf managers delivering Cricket World Cup, so I was sort of reasonably familiar, and I do have exchanges and things with those guys as well, where I've been to stadiums for pink ball test matches and NRL grand finals and things like that, just sort of trying to see how they deliver those types of events under the sort of maybe a little bit different circumstances with traffic and scheduling and even volume of people on the field outside of the game. So, you know, talking ceremonies, halftime entertainment, just sort of learning how to best manage those particular points. You know, so in terms of the game and the field, we're right up there, but, you know, some of those other experiences that the field is likely to receive, you know, it's always worth learning flooring techniques, how much traffic you can get on the field without sort of compromising the surface and things like that. So those things are all worth learning about.
One of the things we found out in research is that you don't particularly like paint on your grass, but possibly not for the reasons that, you know, some people might suspect.
Yeah, I've been a big pusher for the virtual technology. I'm sort of kind of loath with the painting now, and I kind of think that it's of a bygone era. The paint, for me, it doesn't have a toxicity to the grass itself, but it's just so sort of bad, I guess, for want of a better word, for the profile. You know, so when we have that paint leaching into the sand profile, it really just does sort of slow down the water movement through those pore spaces within the sand. And over time, I mean, we've been using painted logos in the same areas of the field for, you know, 20 years now, and there really is a difference in performance in those logo areas of the field, and they really need intense management, particularly in the winter, where that infiltration rate is just slowed so much.
And have the virtual logos become commonplace over there in New Zealand?
They've become commonplace in some of the codes that New Zealand teams play in, but not commonplace in New Zealand. So while we have a team playing in the Australian National Rugby League competition where virtual logos are standard practice, they're not yet standard practice in Super Rugby in New Zealand, albeit that in South Africa they are, and in Australia they are. So we're probably lagging a little bit behind in terms of that technology here in this country, but you know, there is quite a bit of pressure from the stadiums onto the venue hirers to move to this technology, and they are assuring venues that they are going to move to that technology. It's just a timing thing, I think.
Is there anywhere in particular in terms of new technology and the science of the craft that you look to?
A lot of online stuff, just because New Zealand's quite isolated in regard to actually having the technology on the ground. Like I said, we've probably definitely got a bit of a lag time compared to whether it be United States, Australia or Europe. So a lot of the stuff is online, and so therefore I can sort of look at videos and read a lot of comments about it, but in terms of experiencing it firsthand, I guess I'm usually fifth in line to sort of try anything out. Sometimes not the worst thing, but you know, I think technology is a part of this sort of job now that we need to start to embrace a little bit more, and I think it can help us out rather than sort of be be over our heads or anything like that. Everyone's smart enough to pick up on these things. If our kids can work out iPads and online gaming and everything like that, then I'm sure we can work out weather stations, profile monitoring and things like that easily enough. And it's only going to help us out rather than hinder us. And, the people coming through in our industry are really familiar with technology and would probably start to ask questions as to why we're not utilising these types of things as well. So I think it's just, might be awkward to start with, but I think it's well worth getting our head around.
Blair, if we can take a look now at the people and the individuals that have helped you, develop your style, your philosophy, and had the greatest influence on you as a groundsman, who would they be? Okay,
so prior to me coming into, say, Eden Park here, I had the luxury of working for the New Zealand Sports Turf Institute, and so I got to visit a lot of venues, and both here in New Zealand and overseas. So I got to see some really top-end people in terms of the way that they managed turf and things like that. And so you kind of aspire to some of them in terms of what they deliver. And, people that I've sort of looked towards to replicate some of their outcomes, I guess, are people like Mark Perham, who was my predecessor here at Eden Park. There was a lot of things going on at the stadium with rebuilds and reshaping of management and everything like that. But the way that the field was always delivered was always outstanding, and so it changed every single time. And so to be able to be adaptable and change the way that you produce something but still deliver that same outcome was a skill that I learned from Mark, because we were just in an environment where we didn't have sort of a sound base to be able to replicate every year with just such a rebuild going on here at the stadium. So adaptability and always having a mentality that no matter what, the surface is going to be ready, it's going to be there. We're just going to have to change the way we do it every time. So we still have to adapt that sort of philosophy now, and without him sort of inadvertently showing us how to do that, I don't know, how confident you'd be to be able to come into some of the situations that we face. But now I'm fairly confident that we can deliver anything with any sort of things going on in the sideline, I guess.
And if you had one piece of advice that somebody gave you down the years, what would you pick out as the most important piece of advice you ever got?
Be confident in your own ability and back yourself. You'd be surprised what you can do, even if you don't think you can do it. You would be really surprised. And sometimes you feel awkward or out of your depth, but you still have confidence in yourself, because somewhere you're going to get what you need to do. And sometimes, I get daunted a little bit by scheduling or by events and things like that, but sometimes you have to just back away a little bit and think about, just break it down into real basic things, and it can be done. But you do need those people around you to help you, because I used to think you could do it on your own, but there's just no way you can. So you need people that you're confident in and things like that, and just have confidence in yourself.
Who gave you that advice?
Probably a little bit of self-developed after having initially probably a lack of confidence, and in terms of just working it out one day, you said you can actually do it, and you've been given an opportunity. Other people back you. That's why you're here. So just stand up and be confident. And then when you like that, it's not arrogance or anything like that. It's just confidence, and other people will feed off that as well. They want people around them to be confident. They don't want to be surrounded by sort of a wishy-washy, oh my God, what are we going to do here scenario. So think it out, be confident, and other people will follow and help you deliver.
We've spoken a lot about your career so far. Let's talk about the future a little bit now, and your aspirations. First amongst those is, when you leave Eden Park, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
I guess I'm probably a guy that blends into the background a little bit, so I don't need a photo on the wall or anything like that, but I just want to be remembered, you know, as being part of something that was a really high quality and successful environment for other people to grow in and utilize some of the attributes that we've sort of shown and developed here. And also, you know, some of the events are outstanding, and people remember them for the events themselves rather than the turf surfaces. But even if I can just sort of reflect internally on those turf surfaces, and sometimes I'm not too worried about the scores or results, but I know that they were really high quality, and that's sort of enough for me.